but perhaps if it even gives more of an opportunity for someone to learn better because of it, then it's worth it. So just one sheet, double-sided, and then pass it out, and I'll.
Here, look. This is how it shows.
Right, so that's. I'll put it in and out of the screen. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure it's not something new that you shouldn't have your phones. Even before we've officially began, they took 3 days to prepare for Har Sinai. You can probably take 30 seconds before Shiur. Doesn't always have to be on your phone. Could just be that you can self-entertain. It's possible. Come on, Yafa. Here we go. Keep going. Here we go. Okay? It's my son. I thought I kept it all day. Covered in room. Show this is my life. Okay? Everybody has the upper deck? Oh, there's definitely enough. Leva said she didn't even know it could have printed twice. See, there it comes. Here we go. It's just one sheet. Let's take up. There we go. Caitlin of Little Faith. You got one, yeah? Told you. Okay? Okay. So it's Parshat Toldot, and it's Yitzchak's story, but there's this little blip of narrative that does not include Yitzchak, and it has to stand out. And again, if we had more time, like 3 or 4 days, we could do this the way it deserves, but we'll do the best we can. To the MTA who learned with me in the summer, I apologize. A piece of this is what we did do. Let's say, hopefully you remember, and it's just review. I can hope these things. Hopefully it'll be a piece of video. So the scene sort of is introduced with, so Rivka finally has her children, has her boys, and the Torah says, "Vayigdalu hane'arim vayhi Esav ish yodei tzayid ish sadeh v'Yaakov ish tam yoshev ba'alim." Okay, so they grew up, and Esav became this hunter, this outdoorsman, and Yaakov was some kind of complete person sitting in the tent. Tam, to say simple or stupid just doesn't work. That's a very Haggadah thing, i.e. throughout the Bible, tamim is always something positive, of completeness, of blemish, and so on. Okay, so Esav does his thing, and he's a hunter out there, and Yaakov does his thing. I'm sure he's finished Shas 7 times already while he is Yoshev Alim, because that's what they taught in Yeshiva Shem Va'ever. And then there's a scene, okay, right after this. I'll read it. It's just 6 psukim. Vayazed Yaakov. Once upon a time, Vayazed Yaakov Nazid Vayavo Esav min hasadeh v'hu ayef. Yaakov was cooking this stew. It turns out, we'll see at the end, that it's some kind of lentil stew. And Esav comes from the field and he's tired. Vayomer Esav Yaakov, Haliteni na min ha'adom hazeh. Give me of that red stuff, ki ayef anochi, because I'm tired. And the narrative chimes in, Al Kain Krashmo Edom. So that's why his name was Edom. Vayomer Yaakov Michrach Hayom et Bechorat Chali. So Yaakov says, well, you gotta sell me the Bechorah, your Bechorah today, or now. Esau says, hey, I'm going to die. I'm going towards death. What do I need this Bechorah? Yaakov says, swear to me now. And he swears to him. And he sells the Bechorah, his Bechorah to Yaakov. Lastly, Yaakov natan le'esav rechem u'nezida dashim vayocha vayesh vayakom vayelech vayives Esav et haBechorah. He gives him bread, he gives him the stew, little something to drink. He eats, he drinks, he gets up, he leaves, and the Torah says he has disparaged, he has diminished, he has mocked said Bechorah. And that's the end of the scene. Okay, that's it. If we had more time and it wasn't this structure, I would do a little more give and take. That's just my way of teaching. But I'm going to go through and point out what I think are the questions. Okay, to give us a list. Obviously, the people that learn with me know I like to give it to you to figure out and so on and to train your mind critically, but we just don't have the time, nor is it the right context. I'm going to go through the psukim and just like make a list. Okay, make a list of the issues that I think need to be resolved. Okay? Vayazed Yaakov Nazir, nowhere in all of Tanakh is there a verb vayazed ever again. It's only here. Usually it's vayavashel or vayachin. He prepared, he cooked, he prepared. Nowhere else is vayazed. Okay? So why does the Torah use that strange verb here? Vayavo Esav min hasadeh v'hu ayef. Okay. Good to know. The Torah always tells you things you need to know. If you're in the field, you should know that you're going to be tired. The problem is, of course, in the next pasuk, Esav says, Ki ayef anochi. Okay, so the second question on the first pasuk is, why do we have to know the hu ayef? We're going to know that already, and how is it significant at all? If I'm going too fast with the questions, let me know. Vayomer Esav Yaakov haliteni na min ha'adom hazeh. Nowhere in all of Tanakh is the verb ha'aliteni. Okay, it's mentioned in the Mishnah, in a Masechet there, in Masechet Shabbat, but this verb again is a verb that's not mentioned anywhere. You could say hachileni, feed me, but haliteni again is a once in a lifetime verb. Obviously, min ha'adom hazeh, it's got a name. It's Nazit. It's going to say it in the first line and it's going to say it at the end. You could easily call it that, but Esav not only calls it by its color, but twice. Ha'adom hazeh. Ki ayef anochi as opposed to ani. It's like a formal type of anochi, of ani. Why does he say ki ayef anochi? Because I'm tired. And then the narrative says, Al Kain Krashmo Edom. And that's why he's now going to be called Edom. Do you remember when he was born? And they're waiting and they're waiting. There's been this wrestling. It's exciting. And finally the drums are playing. She's in labor. Everybody's very excited. Probably a little uncomfortable for Rivka, but okay. And the first kid comes out. And he is covered in red hair. And all of us know what they're going to name him. Forget the breed. We don't got to wait 8 days. We know exactly what they're going to name him. They're going to name him like Big Reds. And they said, okay. And he's covered in red hair. And they called him Esav. Oh. And Rashi has to say, oh, Asuli, like he was made because he's complete. If you're going to call him Edom anyway, 20 minutes later, why didn't they just call him by the red hair that he had? Why is it because of the soup that he names one time in his life Why is that now forevermore his name, when really it would have fit because he had red hair all over his body? Okay, so why Al Kain Krashmo now Edom? Vayomer Yaakov Michrach Hayom et Bechorat Chali. So Yaakov hears that Esau's desperate. He hears he's tired and he's hungry, and he can manipulate the situation like this. Younger siblings know exactly when there's blood in the water. This is opportunistic. So Esau is saying, I'm so tired, I'm going to die. And Yaakov says, I can ask for anything. What should I ask for? The first thing that pops into his mind is not his room, or maybe his bike, because Esau always had the better bike. Maybe not the stereo. You know what a stereo is? Okay, because my wife thought you might not know yet. Okay, so stereo, good. You know, music player with these ancient things. Yeah, so this stereo. You know what I'm thinking, Yaakov says? I'm thinking I need your Bechorah. Yeah, that's going to work out just great. So my question on Lamed Aleph is, why is that the thing that Yaakov thinks of? The first thing that pops into his head is, you know what would be a perfect trade? Your Bechorah. Okay, so why does Yaakov immediately say, that's what I'm going to need? What's the significance of asking for that? Vayomer Esav hinei anochi holech lamut. Behold, once again, anochi as opposed to ani. I'm going to die. Aren't we all? Anochi holech lamut, and therefore lama zeli bechorah. What's the connection there? I'm going to die, so why should I have ice cream now? I'll tell you why I should have ice cream. Ice cream is awesome. We're all going to die at some point, so who cares? Lama zili bechorah? How about like the 70 years? What? Oh, because he's going to die because he hasn't eaten. And Yaakov is a deceitful, manipulative person who is taking advantage of his brother who is on the verge of death because he hasn't eaten in a day. Are you kidding me? That's what That's what teenagers say. Oh, I'm starving. Trust me, that's what teenagers say. I'm starving. There's no food in the house. All I want is protein. There's not enough protein. I hate you. I hate you. How dramatic can Esav get? And Yaakov's going, oh, I know you're desperate now. Shouldn't have asked for Bechorah. I should have asked for your new shoes. Anochi holech lamut v'lama zeli bechorah. It doesn't even compute. That's not even like a thing. But okay, the Torah says it, so it must be true. Vayomer Yaakov. So Yaakov then says, Hishavali kayom vayishavalu. So Esav is sitting there. He's totally hungry. He's dying. He says, give me your Bechorah. He says, no problem. And Yaakov says, wait. I'm going to need an oath, please. Esav just said, Lava zili Bechorah, it's yours. I don't want it. Yeah, I know. But I'm going to need a Shvuah. And of course, Vayishavalo, Esav gives him the Shvuah. And then Vayim Kod Bechorah, good, now give me the stew. What's Lamed Gimel about? What? Yaakov's going to give it to him anyway. Why this whole preamble of Shua, that he gives a Shua, and then he sells him? And then Lamed Dalet. Ve'Yaakov natan le'Esav lechem u'nezid adashim. What was on the contract? What for what? You got your Bechorah for the stew. Perfect deal. I guess the stew was pretty cool. It turns out Yaakov also serves him breadsticks. What do you mean? Ve'Yaakov natan le'Esav lechem u'nezid adashim. That wasn't the deal. You don't sign a contract. You don't make a shua and then do the exchange and then add things. This is supposed to be the bechorah for the nazir. That's the famous scene. And yet now there's lechem. So where does that lechem come from besides ground grain? Vayochal vayesht. Maybe he's drinking the nazir. Maybe there was also some kind of accompanying wine or something. Vayochal vayesht vayakom vayelech. He gets up and he gets out. One, why are there 4 verbs in a row? Vayochal vayesht vayakom vayelach. 2, vayivez Esav et habechorah. He disparaged, he belittled, he trivialized the bechorah. I'm asking you, when did he, vayivez et habechorah, would you have said? When did that happen in this scene? When he? No, right after? When he sold it. I.e. at the end of Pasuk Lamed Gimel, Vayimkor et bechorato leYaakov. If he's selling off his bechorah, isn't that the greatest demonstration of trivialization and disparagement? So the third question of the Pasuk, the lechem, why those verbs, is how come it waits for Vayivez Esav et bechorah now, when all he's doing is eating now? It's when he agreed to sell it and he sold it. Should have been the moment when we recognize Esav just says, I don't care. Okay? Those are our questions. Make sense? That's our framework? Okay. I'm gonna say a statement, and I just want you to, put it in the back of your mind. Okay? Because we have this to learn and the parak of Tehillim to learn. I'm going to make a statement. I want you to hear it now. Write it down. Just remember it, okay? Everything that's wrong is not necessarily bad. Okay? Everything that's wrong is not necessarily bad. Okay, just back your minds, side of the piece of paper, just remember that I said that. Okay? As counterintuitive as it may be, just everything that is wrong is not necessarily bad. Okay? Now we're going to answer the questions. Okay? I would love to obviously do it with you, but we just don't have the time. Vayaseh Yaakov Nazid. Anybody know what a Nazid is? It's a lentil stew. Yeah? Now, anybody know what lentils are? These little protein packets that have like fur on them. And they're really, and I know you're going to disagree with me, but I'm the one up here, so it doesn't matter. There's no real good way to, if you do it with this, no, that's because they're wrong. If you do it, no, lentils are just bad. But I love lentils. That's great, we'll disagree, okay? Now, how do you prepare lentils? You boil them. And why do people eat lentils? They are like superfoods. You can be vegan and eat lentils and get everything you need. It's got little super pills of nutrition. You boil them and you eat them. That's everything else is just window dressing. Okay? So a lentil stew, would you say, what's the nature of a lentil stew? What would you say it is? What is it? If you see like a symbol of a lentil stew, what is that? It's very, very packed, very perfect, self-contained and nutritious, and a basic, simply prepared. It's like a potato, but like healthy. Okay? So a lentil stew is all that you need. It has all that you need, and it's easily prepared, no complexity to it. What's the verb for bringing a korban. Lehakriv, right? Good. And the reason why that's the verb is because bringing a korban is an erroneous word. You don't bring a korban, you don't give a korban, you don't offer a korban, you come close with a korban. So the verb matches the noun. God created the word lehakriv for the korban. And if a korban is made for coming close, then of course the verb that you're doing with that korban is coming close. So what do you notice about vayazet? It's the verb that matches the nazid. That's why it's the only time you ever hear it in all of Tanakh. No one else ever prepares a nazid. So according to this line, Yaakov is stewing a stew. But what kind of stew? A perfect, all you need, simply prepared stew. So what's his action that he's doing in order to accomplish it? Simple, perfect, self-contained, all that you need. Vayavashel is too complex a verb. This is the perfect verb to the perfect meal. Why does the scene open up with making sure we see Yaakov doing this? Who is Yaakov? An ish tam yoshev ohali. So we heard about what it is. Now we see an action that reflects it. He is the paradigm of ish tam. What he prepares and how he prepares it is the paradigm of tamatut. And it's not therefore surprising that the second half has Esav coming from where? Because he's an Ishadeh Tzayid, Isadeh, i.e. the curtains open up and our two players are exactly fulfilling the roles that we know they were given to fulfill. Understood? That's our context, that's our stage. Now all we have to do is listen to what they have to say, and theoretically what they say matches what they do, which matches who they are. Does that make sense? So what we're going to read here in this interplay is quintessential Yaakov and quintessential Esav. That's the key the Torah is telling us. You have to make up this scene. It's coming from who they were from the get-go. Okay? Vayomer vehu ayef. Esav comes from the field and he becomes ayef because of it, which means the next time we hear ayef, what are we supposed to conjure up? Images of the field. Okay, just keep that in mind. Okay, ayef equals being outdoors. Vayomer Esav Yaakov haliteni na min ha'adom ha'adom hazeh. Haliteni is not ha'achileni, because you know what ha'achileni implies? It implies being fed so that you can ochel, you can eat. Haliteni is you open your mouth and you pour it down someone's throat. Next time you're next to somebody who is eating in a totally gluttonous way, basically shoving the food in their mouths, I'm going to tell you something you need to know as students of Torah, a way to mock them and learn Torah at the same time. It's a win-win. All you do is under your breath, you whisper, and if they get it, they get it. If not, you still score points for learning Torah. I have to teach you everything I know. It can't just be from Tanakh. Okay? Just throwing that out there. Torah is a weapon. Haliteni says, pour it down my throat. Min ha'adom hazeh. When you classify something as a color and not by its name, that's because what don't you care about? What it is. I don't need a menu. I'm going to go a la carte. I'm taking the red stuff. Thank you very much. Because let me ask you this. What does Esav need to do? If he's haliteni and he's hadom hazeh, what is he asking? What does he need to do as he comes in from the field? To refuel. He's not interested in eating. He's not interested in a meal. he needs to refuel so he can get back out to where he belongs. Okay? Ki ayef anochi. What does anochi mean that ani doesn't mean? Is it? Who you are. It's self-defining. I am, Esav says, I'm an ayef. That's why I need you to pour that red stuff down my throat. And what does ayef mean? Did we say? The field. So what is Esav calling himself? I am defined by the field that I live within. Ki ayef anochi. I am that outdoorsman, and therefore I'm not interested in a fork and a knife. I'm not interested in what you use to spice this stuff, that stuff, down my throat. Yeah, that red stuff over there. Then the Torah says, Al Kain Krashmo Edom. When does somebody get a name? When does he get a name? When he's defined. Why does the Torah name him here, Rebecca? Because he has defined himself. When Yitzhak and Rivka name him, they have their own ideas. But you know why the Torah is telling us he's called this forevermore? Not because it's a nice idea, not because he asked for the red stuff, but because he said, I am an ayef. He's self-defined. This is who I am, and therefore this is what I need. Nobody told him what to say. Nobody asked him his opinion. He volunteered it and said, I am an ayef. I am an outdoorsman. This is who I am. And therefore the Torah says it's at this moment we can say forevermore, he's going to be called by that Edom, that red stuff that he asked for. So far, so clear? I know so fast, but what are we going to do? Okay? Vayomer Yaakov, Michrach Hayom et Bechoratcha li. We had said, where does this come from? Why would this have been the first thing that popped into his mind? And I'll tell you, the Midrash answers it and says, because he was actually making lentils, which is an avelut dish for his father Yitzhak, because Avram just died. So what's on Yaakov's mind? Right? The Bechorah, the legacy, the passing down, and so on. What does Yaakov know about characters? People who are defined as field people, as ayef. Has Yaakov ever had in his history a precedent of somebody who was through and through defined by that characteristic? Ishmael. Ishmael was a Peret Adam. He lived in the wilderness. And what, of course, happened to that personality? He wasn't included in the legacy. He wasn't included in the Bechorah. You know why this idea pops into Yaakov's head? Because what did he just hear Esav declare? I'm not the guy who fits in to the Bechorah. That's not who I am. It doesn't come out of nowhere. Yaakov waits. He doesn't make him say it. But when Esav voluntarily self-defines and says, I'm a wilderness guy. I'm an outdoorsman. I'm a hunter. Yaakov's first thought is, and if that's true, it means you don't belong in our legacy. You need to sell me your Bechorah. You need to acquiesce and relinquish that that's not going to be your role. And you know what Esav says? Hine anochi holech lamut. Not, I'm going to die. Anochi is self-defining. I am a goer to death. Because what are hunters? Yes, they're in danger every day. Not when you're hunting rabbits. How do hunters live? As opposed to, let's say, gatherers. How do hunters live? Nomadic, because they have to follow the animals. When they're hungry, what do? They then go and hunt. And when that food is done, what do again? And hunt again. Gatherers plant crops for the future. Esav says, I am a holech lamut. I live day to day, and therefore, lama zeli bechorah. What is the one defining attribute of a bechorah, especially in Avram's family? It's the future. That's what it is. And Avram says, how do I know? And God says, it's not about you. Yitzchak says, what am I supposed to do? And God says, it's about your future. Esav turns around and says, Bechorah, you want the Bechorah? That's no problem. I'm a day-to-day. And the Bechorah is future. I don't need that stuff. If you ever thought for a second that Yaakov manipulated his older brother to wheedle out the Bechorah, I hope you're understanding that that's an erroneous understanding. You know how many words Esav speaks? 17. You know how many Yaakov speaks? 8. Who is the driver of this conversation? Who is the one that's offering the dialogue? It's Esav. Yaakov saying one word here and there. There's no manipulation. There's no riding him. He's so desperate. He's so hungry. It's not about starving. It's about a philosophical truth. Do you really think Esav could have sold his Bechorah? Whose was it to give? Who gives it to Esav? Yitzchak. And then once Yitzchak is dead, then Esav takes on that responsibility. This whole thing, it's totally impractical. It's not true. What they're doing today doesn't have any effect on the reality of who has the Bechorah. You know what it has effect on? It got Esav to verbalize what truth? He doesn't belong in the future. And who told him that? He did. And Yaakov was just there to get Esav to readily admit it. This is a philosophical scene, a mental scene, a mindset scene. It has nothing to do with, Pops, you should just know we talked this through and you can give it to me. This is the moment when Esav says, I don't belong in the patriarchal future. Yaakov says, Hishavali kayom, brilliantly. What's a shvuah? What's it all about? The future. Because Yaakov is all about the future. Vayimkor et bechorato leYaakov. I'm not going to focus on this now, but every time mechira is used in the Torah, what's being used? Money. I'm just going to throw this out here. It's not time to spend on it. I think the Bechorah was sold for money, not the stew at all. Because what is money? Modern Hebrew word for money? Not kesef, you're such STEM students. Mezuman. Why is cash called mezuman? Means ready money, cash available, as opposed to ashray, which is credit. What does Esav want out of the deal? Something here, something now. Money's for him. What does Yaakov and his personality need out of the deal? Future. So that Pasuk Lamed Gimel is both of them get what is relevant for them. That's a kinyan. That's an acquisition. That's sealed. And now it makes sense why Yaakov throws in lechem. Because what wasn't the deal ever about? It was never about the soup. The soup was like the talking point. It's what inspired the admittance of Esav. It was never, I'll give you this if you give me this. So the Torah says, it's Natan le'Esav lechem u'nezid adashim. Because what do you do after you make a deal? What do? Oh, come on, what do? You break bread, you have a Suda, you shake on it. Now let's go get coffee. This deal was never about the soup. He wasn't really starving. So Yaakov gives him lechem unazid adashim, vayochal vayesh vayakom vayelach. He eats, he drinks, he gets up, and he leaves. And then it says, Vayivez Esav et habechorah. And we had said, why here? Why now? Is he disparaging the Bechorah? Where does Esav come from in the beginning of the scene? Where does he go at the end of the scene? What hasn't fazed him for a second? The selling of the Bechorah. It's not when he sold it. It's when he sold it and it didn't matter to him. He got up and he left and he went back right where he came from to begin with. That's the moment that he disparaged it. That's the moment when he said, it's not something that I care about. Clear, okay? Obviously, it's faster than we should have, but you've got the understanding of that scene. Okay. Look quickly at Perek Kaftet. Sorry, never see you again. I hope this was meaningful. Perek Kaftet, you sing it, right? You have a little chanting, Shabbat, Kabbalat Shabbat, and so on. I thought it would be cool to do a little bit. Again, we don't have enough time to do an analysis because it's one of the most brilliant prakim of Tehillim. Okay? Mizmor LeDavid, yeah? Havu LaHashem b'nei Elim, Havu LaHashem kavod va'oz. The reason I bolded, okay? The reason I bolded the second half is because every time, if you look down